Hi, welcome to my channel. I started this channel, Create Your Second Half, 6 years ago and had so many ideas about what to do with it, and every time I was frozen. My topics were all over the place. I didn't know enough about technology. I needed to make an intro and I didn't know how to do that. How to create video and then put photos in between it all and tell my story and what I hoped would be inspirational to other people. So I've decided I'm just gonna jump in. Okay, that was, 5-6 years ago. Okay, enough is enough. So I'm just going to create videos. I'm going to make 30 of them for the next 30 days. And hopefully you'll be here to check in and find something inspirational to you. So, in a nutshell, my life has always been about taking care of people, property, and pets. And I have finally combined those things into a life I love. It's not perfect. It's not a ton of income, but it is something I love. So I want to share that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history and what I hope to do moving forward. So I was a deputy sheriff for 20 years and a city police officer also for an additional 2 years. I raised 4 wonderful kids, been married several times, and after leaving law enforcement, I had a home watch company. So I took care of people's property and made sure that during hurricanes and storms that their home was fine. There were no pest infestations, and the water in the pool was fine. The water in the hot tub. There were no break-ins. Just a variety of things to make people so they would know that their property is taken care of. And that evolved into managing Airbnbs, and I was working my tail off. And a friend of mine, we had a huge hurricane hit in Florida, and I knew that the people in Immokalee, Florida, a lot of them are migrants and working, in the fields, and they had no assistance from the government, of course. So I did a little fundraiser, and someone from my church offered to help. And through our conversation, she was a flight attendant. And I said, I've always wanted to be a flight attendant. So through our conversation, she stayed in touch with me and told me when this company was accepting applications. So I applied and became a flight attendant. So I absolutely love that. I felt honored to be in that position. But that was just before COVID. And when COVID hit, things changed. I wanted fun in my life. I didn't want to be the police anymore. I didn't want to be the enforcer, but suddenly I was the mask police. Put your mask over your nose, and people complaining he doesn't have his mask on right, and then the gentleman would fall asleep and his mask would fall down, and I'd have to wake him up and then put his mask over his nose again. So the whole dynamic of being a flight attendant changed, and I loved it until I didn't love it anymore. And during the interim, I bought a home in North Carolina and was renovating it, and I was never ever home. And I wanted to do the renovation myself, and I knew I could, but I was never home. I was a new flight attendant, so I was based out of Oakland, California, and commuting all that way. And I rehomed my little dog because every time I left and pulled out the suitcase, he would freak out, and it wasn't fair to him. I was having him to be bounced all over the place because my little trip of 3 days of flying turned into 4 or 5, and I was never ever home. So I resigned from that position and created 2 Airbnbs on my property. So I managed those for a while and loved that as well. I felt that during that time, if I was going to invest time and energy into my home, I might as well do it myself and improve the value of my home. And I knew that I I knew that the income from the Airbnb would support the renovation, and that was very true. So I did that for a while, and I also did private protection work, so private investigation work in Las Vegas, Fort Worth, Texas, Seattle, Washington, Washington, D.C., and love that as well. So fast forward now, I'm just giving you a little bit of history of where I've been. For the last 2.5 years, I've been traveling. I rented my home to my son, and so my home's taken care of. I began traveling in my pickup truck in a teardrop camper. I traveled throughout the United States, places I love, like the Amish country of Ohio and Indiana, Pennsylvania. And then I ventured down to Arizona to Quartzsite for the RTR, the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, which is a wonderful convention actually coming up, or gathering. It's not a convention. Gathering coming up this January. And if you are someone who is interested in van life or full-time living on the road, being a nomad, absolutely go to this event. I believe it's 5 days. The first few days are women only, and then the rest of it is open to men. But they cover every topic of life on the road, and it is so knowledgeable. It is a great community, and so I highly recommend that. So I went to Quartzsite, Arizona, to that event. And then I ventured down into Mexico, drove my trailer and my dog and my cat down throughout Mexico, stopping, zigzagging all the way down the Baja. Ended up in La Paz, which I loved. Spent 4 months there, and put my truck and my teardrop on one of their, it's not a barge, but it is a barge. Mine was basically a cargo freighter that took containers from the Baja to mainland Mexico. So I wanted to stay in my camper and sleep overnight versus being in a chair somewhere, and you have two options when you travel that route across the water to mainland Mexico. One of them, you can sit in a seat the entire way, but I wanted to be in my camper because, of course, I had my dog with me. And I had another dog named Susan, which I rescued while I was in Mexico. So I did that, traveled through Texas all the way up to where my daughter, all the way through mainland Mexico into Texas where my daughter lives, and came home. That was a wonderful trip. And then actually a couple that I met in Arizona had the same teardrop camper. And when I met them, we were chatting about our new Tab campers. Loved that camper. And they said to me, they explained that they lived in Maine. I was like, I've always wanted to go to Maine. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go. And they said, come on up. So the following, April, May, I went to Maine. I stayed in touch with them and went up to Maine and stayed with them in Brooksville, Maine, and helped them with their beautiful organic garden. Now, granted, when I went there, I was on the road before I knew the address. Anything really, I spoke to them on the phone, but that was about it. I knew it was in the Brooksville area. I've never been to Maine. I had no idea. I thought, what's around here? Is there shopping? Like, what is there to do? Turns out it is somewhat remote, but their home was a beautiful 1800s farmhouse right on the water. And I helped them with their organic gardening and just helped any way I could around the property. And they are like family. And then from there, I went up to Acadia National Park and worked at the Acadia by Carriage tours within the national park and lived in my camper. So it kind of evolved into that. And now, so last year, the following year, I went back up again. And those folks in Brooksville are like family. They're wonderful people. And I also was invited to work again at Acadia by Carriage. So I also spent a lot of time in Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park. So what I'm hoping the message I can convey here is that people are wonderful. People are great. Even Mexico. I had 5 run-ins with the cops in Mexico. Traveling by myself, pulling a cute little teardrop camper with my dog and my cat. And it was a great experience. I know very, very little Spanish. So people that are like, oh, do you know any Spanish? No, I actually don't. But Google Translate is amazing. I had phone problems. Yes, I lost my map system for a while, but even what I want to convey and encourage people is that even when things go wrong, you've learned something new, right? You've grown. And I feel that as we grow, we want to stay safe. We feel like we know everything and we don't want to be challenged. We don't want to be challenged, or maybe, to look at a different perspective. If you watch the news in the United States, it tells you that Mexico is dangerous. Parts of it are. Yeah. But if you're smart, if you use iOverlander or some of these apps and tools that you have, Mexico is quite safe. Travel with a buddy. I crossed the border with a gentleman named Mike, who he'd been there the year prior. So we didn't sleep together in a Walmart, but we both drove from Quartzsite to, I forgot the name of the town in California, stayed the night at a Walmart, and where there's a ton of campers. Everybody's there to cross the border. So a young lady in a beautiful camper came over and chatted with us and was having headlight problems, which we helped her with that. And she said, can I cross the border with you? So the 3 of us crossed the border and then spent the next 2 days together. So how nice is that? People are good. People are great in Mexico. I had my teardrop camper come off of my truck, literally like on the ground. And some gentlemen I was at a boat ramp where I was sleeping for the weekend because it was beautiful on the water. They came and lifted my teardrop up and fixed the problem for me. So people are wonderful. It's okay to get out there. Take risks. Burn the recliner. That's what I feel like. And also I feel that I'm 61. So as we get older, I'm seeing that our circle of friends gets smaller and smaller. And unless we push through that, unless we get uncomfortable and get out of our shell and take that trip you want to take, even if it's alone, if you can't get any of your friends to go, do it yourself. You can do this. And you remember that feeling? Do you remember the feeling of trying out for basketball, trying out for cheerleading, whatever it is, that thing that you're nervous, but you still want to do it and try it? We don't do that enough as adults. That's what I feel. We just don't. We want to be comfortable. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to fail. We don't want to get harmed or in danger. We're watching way too much news, right? In our younger years, did we really sit in front of the TV? Did we turn on the TV immediately when we woke up? I don't think so. Now we wake up and that's the first thing we hear. All these messages that we need to buy this and we need all this stuff. When we really don't need all that stuff, we need community, we need friends, and we need to be out there and being vulnerable still and still learning. So I hope this is valuable to someone out there. Currently, about 8 months ago, I bought a van ambulance because I sold my teardrop. I sold my beloved Honda Ridgeline pickup truck, which I loved, but I wanted to be self-contained in just a van of some sort. and I couldn't afford a Sprinter. Some of them are so expensive. So I bought a 2018 Chevrolet Express ambulance from Asheville, North Carolina, with 108,000 miles on it. And it's small, it's tiny. Yes, it's an ambulance, but it's small. And then after purchasing that, I was hoping to move to Mexico, honestly. I had a 6-month lease, but I found a girlfriend to take that over. And I realized that maybe I could create a source of income with my ambulance. A way to write off the ambulance, find a way to pay for the miles I wanted to travel, and also have a purpose. We all need a purpose. It's nice to travel and float around and meet new people, but for me, I am mission driven and I need a purpose. I need a reason to be out there in the world and to be useful. I need to be useful. I can't float. So I created the Sentinel Pet Transport, kind of not even knowing if there was really an industry of pet transport out there, but it turns out there is. There are breeders. Now everything's online. So a breeder has 2 puppies and they need one to get to Maryland and one to get to Florida. And who's going to do that? Or you have someone in the military, they're relocating, right? One dog is 80 pounds, one is 100. Someone contacted me today exactly with that situation. They need their dog to get from Florida to the state of Washington. So we are communicating now about how to make that happen. So also, my ambulance, I have completely outfitted that I can live full-time in my ambulance, and that is my intention. And I have been doing it now, just 2 months. Well, maybe a little bit longer. But I have good friends that I stay with now and then. I'm like, I want to visit. So they're like, stay in the house. I would rather be in the ambulance, honestly, because it's like my little cave. I have a bed. I have an oven. I have burners to cook on. I have a toilet. I have fresh filtered water and a plethora of food, everything I need. So I like that. I like that I can go anywhere and I'm not paying for a creepy hotel room. And if I'm transporting pups, I don't leave them. I am with them. There's places you can stay like Cracker Barrel, Tractor Supply, Walmart. I don't care for Walmart so much because some of the trucks come in and go and it can get loud at night. So I prefer something more quiet and quaint. And I love Cracker Barrel and I always patronize them either with dinner or breakfast. Yeah, so that is the life I am leading. And I'm hoping to inspire other people, whether you're young and you're tired of the 9 to 5 and you want to create a life you love. I can show you and teach you what has worked for me and what hasn't worked for me, the mistakes I've made, and I've done a couple of dumb ones. Also, regarding Walmarts, my Teardrop Camper by New Camp was amazing. It is a phenomenal product. I've toured the facility in Sugar Creek, Ohio. Yeah, wonderful product. I highly recommend it. But I have to say the difference between my ambulance and the Teardrop, my ambulance is so quiet. It's fully insulated. I've insulated it more. The other benefit of it is that I feel extremely safe in it. There's 4 roll bars and it's super quiet, has a ton of storage, lots of sliding plexiglass on the whole entire wall. So I have lots of storage. I like things to be visual so I can see, oh, there's my coffee, there's my olive oil. So, and I also have a refrigerator freezer, which is made by Dometic, an amazing product as well. So I hope that you'll follow me. Today is day 1 of 30. I'm going to do one every day on a different topic. And if I have touched on something that might be useful to you, or you want more information about, please leave a comment so I know where to direct my next videos. Anyway, okay, thank you for watching.